In this video, I'm going to go over 3 basic photo setups that you can do easily and on a budget. Because when I got into photography, I thought I had to have the fancy backdrop system, all the clips, the actual backdrop fabrics, and the paper that costs hundreds of dollars. And it gets overwhelming for your bank account, especially if you're just starting out and just bought all the camera equipment too. So, we're going to jump right into this, just going over basic ideas, things you can do on a budget that don't break your bank and are easy and can still look fun and professional if you do it right. First setup I'm going to do is just using a wall, a plastic tablecloth. This is like $2 at Walmart, I think was where this one came from. Pretty much any store has these. And then some sort of tape. I'm using gaffer tape. You could use duct tape, masking tape, just whatever tape you have that will stick to a wall. And then I have a bench off to the side that I'll use later. And then this is somewhat optional. You can do whatever you want, but I'm just going to use a blanket scarf and some cloth napkins. These are pretty cheap. I think I got these ones at Hobby Lobby a couple years ago for like less than $5 for a pack of, I think I have like 5 or 6 around my house. But it's kind of whatever you feel to decorate. Sometimes I've used rice lights or fairy lights. I would use my curtain lights, except they're packed off to the side because I have a photo shoot that I'm doing this weekend that I'm taking them to. But to start with this, you're just going to take your tape and your tablecloth and you're going to put it up on the wall. It's pretty self-explanatory. For time's sake, I'm going to cut to when it's done, and then I will come back and show you how I set up the rest of it. Okay, now that I have my tablecloth up on the wall, I will give you one tip. With plastic tablecloth, you're going to have creases down the middle where it folded. Get it as tight as you can against the wall with the tape without ripping it. That is my one piece of advice. It's going to make things a lot easier. But the only other thing I'm going to do for this setup is just grab a bench and just set it in front. You can kind of angle it if you want. And then all I'm going to do is just take my blanket that I have and I'm going to arrange it on the bench and kind of get it how I want. Now that I have it set up kind of how I want, another little tip that I'll give you is for this, I would actually put a loop of masking tape, gaffer tape, something underneath your fabrics so they don't shift and fall off every time someone stands, especially if it's an event like I do a lot. But this is the final setup. Just basic. This took me maybe all of 10 minutes to set up, and it cost me maybe $10 altogether. It doesn't have to be expensive, but keep watching this video because in a second, I'm going to show you another setup you can do using a lot of the same stuff we have right here and a tension rod and a doorway. Okay. Ignore my desk in the back. But this part, we're going to go over how to use a metal tension rod. This is just a cheap one from Walmart. Just the kind that screw. For the sake of time and making sure I had one that fit, I already have a tension rod put in my doorway. But keys with these, make sure they fit your doorway. Because a lot of them, they have obviously a minimum, but they also have a maximum. Just make sure it fits before you get started. Just test it. But the other things you're going to need for this setup is I'm using a bed sheet. I think this one's a twin size. You can use whatever size you need for whatever doorway you have. If it is too wide or too long, you can always tuck it under or fold it, and I will show how to do that in a little bit here. And then I'm not going to do it in this video, but I want to talk about it. I would recommend getting just a cheap portable steamer. I think this was maybe $15 from Walmart, and it has lasted me forever. But this will help with getting any wrinkles out and save you a headache while editing later. The other thing to consider though with a steamer, think about the area that you're in. Where's the nearest outlet? I would recommend either bringing an extension cord, either having it in your bag, or honestly for photo shoots, I almost always at least have one in my car. Because I swear that's the one thing I always need and I don't have it, and it can really make or break a situation. And then in this bag, I have these black and orange utility clips. You can get these at Walmart, Menards. I think I got a pack of like 8 or 9 of them on Amazon for like $5. These are super cheap, but if you're doing backdrops all the time, these are your best friend. And I have a whole bag of them. I would just invest in a bunch of these because you can never have too many. And then other things I have are the bench from earlier and the blankets. Again, those are optional depending on what your setup is and what you're doing. But we're going to get into it. I'm going to show you how I would clip these up. Okay. I flipped you around to another angle to show you what this looks like from the back. So what I'm going to do is take my bed sheet. I'm going to loop it over the top of my bar. And you want to make sure you have a little bit of an overhang. And then you're going to take the black clips that we talked about earlier, and you're going to figure out how long you need it. I want mine pretty much even with the floor. And then with these clips, You can clip up like this, but then you're going to have to edit out the clips on the top. I always go up underneath and clip under. And I'm going to do like 3 or 4. Making sure you smooth out the edges. I usually do a clip always right in the corner because it's going to help pull it over. Just like that. Now I'm going to flip over to the other side and show you how I would set this up from over there. Now that we have it clipped up, I'm going to just make minor adjustments, making sure my fabric is pulled to both ends. And see how I kind of have a gap right here? I'm going to see if I can move my rod all the way up right now. Okay, now that that's up and it's ready, I'm going to take my bench that I had earlier, place it in front, and then I'm going to take my blanket scarf and lay it over my bench. And that is all that there is for this setup. Again, super cheap, super basic. Takes a little longer for setup because there's more clipping involved, but still, I've done this a lot. This is what I used my whole first year of college when I had a professor make me do photo of the days. And I lived in a really crappy little apartment at the time. And this was how I hid everything that was in that apartment because we had no storage. So, keep watching. I'm going to show you how I use an actual backdrop system and what I would do for that setup. This one, I'm going to use an actual backdrop system. This one's from Neewer. I think I got it off of Amazon for like $100 on sale. I think it's originally like $150-ish. So not super expensive as far as backdrop systems go, but it's a decent one. I use this all the time. If you couldn't tell by the fact that the bag is dirty and beat up. But in this system, I'm going to get the bag opened up here. Just has 2 buckles, a zipper down the middle, and zippers on the end so it can lay flat. And then, main thing in this system are 3 stands. And I can do a more in-depth video on this system at some point. But this one you can either use 3 stands or you can use 2 depending how long you need it. I'm just going to use 2 right now. But this just has a little knob that loosens or tightens it so it can slide. If you're using backdrop systems, keep in mind these metal bars, you want them to be pretty close to parallel with the floor if you can, because that is what's going to help make it sturdy. And all I'm going to do now is just set this off to the side, grab another one, and do the same exact thing. Loosen this, pull the legs out, slide it down until those bars are parallel, and then set it on the floor off to the side. And then, depending what system you have, it's going to come with little metal pieces like this. And I can insert a picture somewhere on the screen of what this looks like. But this is going to go in the top of my stand. I'm just going to loosen this top part until it clicks in, and then I'm going to tighten it. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just loosen it all the way. Tighten it. Good to go. And then this system has 2 bars that go across, and they just screw together in the middle. They don't have to be super tight, just enough that they don't come undone. And then you can see on the end, they look exactly like the other stand. Only difference is these ones, they're going to sit down on top, and the knob's going to loosen sideways. I recommend when you set up, have this knob facing backward. Because one, it's going to make it easier later if you have to loosen or tighten this while your setup is up, but also you're not going to have this pushing into your backdrop. So I'm just going to screw this onto the top quick, and I'm probably going to have to move my stands a little farther apart. But screwing that up, placing in the middle, screwing it tight. Now I'm going to grab my same bed sheet from earlier, and I'm going to do the same method of clipping as I did earlier in this video. So for time's sake, I'm just going to clip it, and then I'll come back when it's done. Okay, now my bed sheet is clipped. I'm going to real quick just bring this closer so that you can see what it looks like when I raise these up. This is the same as it is on the other side. This is easier with another person because someone else can raise the other side at the same time as you're raising this one. But this has the same exact knobs as the other one did. Same knobs as the top. You're going to loosen it. You can see this pops up. And all I'm going to do is raise this and tighten this clip. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. But basically, you're just going to keep twisting and tightening and raising it up until it's level across the top. I'm going to speed through real quick, putting it up, and then I will show you when it's done. Okay, now that I have that up and it's straight across the top, I'm going to literally just do the same thing I did earlier. Grab my bench with my blanket scarf, place place it in the middle. And that is it for this setup. This one does take a little bit longer just because you have to get the system out and get that all set up. But clipping is the same. My one only tip I will give, because I did it on this side, I had this knob forward. I would have put it backward, but I didn't realize it until I was already set up. But that is all you have to do for this part. And with that, this is where I'm going to end the video. I hope this helped just to show that you don't need a ton of fancy stuff to start out. I had people telling me that I needed to go get the seamless backdrop paper, which is good and it's a great option, but it's hard to store, it's expensive for what it is, and if you have that on the floor and it gets stepped on, you have to cut it off, so it eventually will run out. But follow along for more tips. I will see you guys with another video later.